back. One Bills Live. Bills out practicing in the rain here in Orchard Park today, getting set for the Dolphins. A lot going on this weekend, and the legend of the game is with us now. He'll be recognized at pregame, have something to say right after the coin toss. He'll be in the Legends stage pregame with Craig Ervik signing autographs between gates 5 and 6, and then back down at halftime with the crucial catch survivors on the field. He is a legend of the Bills, the all-time leading scorer from Buffalo Bills history, and he's on the line with us right now. Former Bills kicker Steve Christie. Hello, Steve. John Murphy and Steve Tasker up here in Buffalo. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure. How are you guys doing?
Doing great. Haggis, it's great to hear your voice. You were just up here for Legends Weekend. It was great touching base with you. Now you get to come back again. How is this weekend going to be different from the one you were just up at?
Well, I think, kind of being in that cancer survivor group is special to come back. It'll be 5 years come November 20th where I was cancer free, or everything sort of was clear back then. And in the meantime, you kind of deal with it. And we've been trying to help a lot of other people, a lot of friends of ours that have been diagnosed. And I think that's been, very important for my wife, Kelly, and I to do so, and to help people that have gone through similar situations that I have. But also at the end of the day, it's, the struggle is individual, and we're firm believers that, it's the struggle is, it's real, but, whatever works for you, however you want to beat the beast, that's the most important thing.
The interesting part about your bout with cancer was that you got it early in life. You were 46 when you were diagnosed, and I was told, Murph, earlier, most people, they don't even get checked until they're 50.
Yeah.
So you were fortunate on a number of ways, right?
Yeah, and I think the big message here is that if you think something's wrong, or if you suspect that there's something not quite right, you may not want to wait until the conventional, guidelines that say, hey, get checked at 50. Get in there. If something's wrong, get there. I delayed, to be quite honest. I kind of delayed getting checked. I didn't think it was much. And then, unfortunately, I was diagnosed with colorectal cancer. And although it's kind of a personal thing, the message here is to go and get checked. If you suspect that there's anything wrong at all, get out there and get it done. It's better to be safe than sorry. And in fact, a couple of my buddies have gone in and they've had to get some work done. So I think it's good to, once you get past a certain age, like our age, hey guys, it's good to get in there and check.
I've been in there twice, colonoscopies.
Me too.
Yeah,
me too.
Hey, Steve, so you mentioned at halftime the crucial catch survivors. You'll be down there on the field. And what kind of a bond will you have with those people, with various, cancer survivors, various kinds of cancer? What do you think the bond in that group might be?
Well, I think the bond is, having to go through treatment and in some cases surgeries. In my case, I had 2, but, it's getting through the treatment, getting through, the pain, the discomfort. And then I think the bond that we all have as survivors is I think we really appreciate everyone that helped us along the way, from surgeons to our families, to our kids, to, everybody that chips in to help you get through it. And at the end of the day, I think we're all very, very thankful to still be here. And that's certainly, obviously, that's the ultimate bond, is that we're able to represent on the field for so many others.
I've got to ask you as well. Everybody, I say everybody, but everybody really has somebody they know who has been stricken with cancer. And I want to ask you, what's your life like now that you've been said cancer-free? Is it different? Is it, how has it changed you?
It's been different for me. My mornings can be a bit tough, but I have a schedule, I have a routine. I take my meds, and I get things going in the afternoon and at night. And I'm now a volunteer head coach or special teams coach over at the high school, my daughter's high school, and it's nice to be able to get out and help the kickers and punters and the long snappers. A lot of people help me, and when I started feeling better, I felt like it was a good opportunity to go back and help some other guys out. And I think that's, at the end of the day, when you go through a struggle like that, you put things in priority and you start changing what's important in your life. And one of the things that I kind of hit me over the head was, it's time to give a bit more back. And so this year has been my first year back coaching, and I find it really gratifying.
I'm just really glad to hear. And speaking of coaching kickers, I got to ask you this. There's been this big thing going on in the NFL, like with Chicago last year. They spent this last off season searching for a kicker. We've had kickers miss kicks. The extra point is way different than it was when you and I were in the league. Do you have a philosophy, or do you have some observations about how coaches are handling kickers in this climate in the NFL? Is it different? Is it the same? Or what would you do different?
Well, I think the first thing I'd do is bring Steve Tasker back as one of the best ever. He helped me out immensely, time and time again.
I think it was
But
Wednesday. I think it was our Wednesday pub visits that did it.
Well, that's definitely part of it. Hey, it's all about camaraderie. I think though the new PAT rule has really changed things for the guys. At the end of the day, it's not that far of a kick, but I think mentally, the extra point being so far back, it is getting into some heads. But at the end of the day, it's you guys play golf, and it's what you want to keep the same swing, keep your head down, follow through, and do your job, get out there and don't be distracted by everything else. And anytime you have an opportunity to win the game, that's what you want. Get out there and finish it for your team. That's why we get paid to do what we do, and get out there and do your job.
Steve, you spent 15 years kicking in the NFL, and I wondered during that time how much time you spent thinking about kickoffs, maybe worrying about kickoffs. They've essentially taken a lot of kickoff strategy out of the game now.
Yeah, back then, when I came in the league, we kicked off from the 35 with a 3-inch tee. It was pretty easy to get the ball up in the air. And then partway through my career, they dropped it down to a 1-inch tee, back to sub 5 yards, and all of a sudden the kickoff was, a big part of the game. But now, of course, with the injuries and everything else that has happened, they have taken a lot of that out of the game for safety. And quite frankly, I am kind of for it, because even Bruce DeHaven, our old special teams coach, would say, if you want to go down and hit somebody, kickoff is what you do, because there's no other there. I mean, there's a lot of big hits, as we saw Steve do many on punt coverage, but kickoff coverage is one of those plays where everyone is running full steam at one another. And I mean, I agree with the changes, although it does take a lot of the kickoffs out of it.
Well, one of the things that came up on those kickoffs was, you've got guys running down the field, guys retreating, then turn around and taking guys on, and nobody's trying to avoid contact. The object of the exercise is to blow each other up, and it's pretty dangerous at times. And the concussions are way down now. They stopped letting guys have wedges, and I used to fly into wedges. 4 guys at 300-pounders, and you kind of fly in there and just a little bit of a bug on the windshield at times. But it was just part of the game. And now with the kickoff, I think it's almost a different. You can speak to this, Steve. You may go in and kick. If you have scored 35 points, you'll kick off once at the beginning of the game or once at halftime, and then 5 more kickoffs for touchdowns. You may only have to cover 1. And then it becomes problematic that you don't get much practice at it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and the thing is with our kickers in Buffalo, with Hauschka and before that with Carpenter and the guys that we've had in and out of there. I mean, you're right. You start kicking off for touchbacks every time, everyone expects it. And then lo and behold, you get somebody back there like, Deion Sanders or Mel Gray back in the day. They would take it 8 yards deep in the end zone and bring it out. And everyone's kind of caught on their heels, flat-footed.
Yeah, they're walking,
saying,
they're running half speed.
What do we do now? I don't even know I don't know where my lane is, because we've been hitting touchbacks all day. And that's true. And I think, but as we know, as the weather goes on in Buffalo, touchbacks will become fewer and fewer for both teams. And that's when, our coverage team has to be sharp.
Steve Christie, our guest, coming back for the Bills-Dolphins game. And I read where you're doing a little, volunteer coaching of your own down in Florida these days, Steve? Is that right?
Yeah, just kickers and punters and long snappers, and working young guys through and changing a few things here and there. But I think at the end of the day, if I see improvement with these guys, then I've personally accomplished something. And like I said before, it's all about giving something back.
How individual is kicking, Steve? Is it just a talent you have? Is it mental, or is it just technique?
I'm finding that I can teach guys the basics. A lot of guys can, but you have to have a mental edge about you. If you miss a kick or swipe at a punt, you have to be able to go back on the field and do it again and do it right. You have to be resilient, and you have to be thin-skinned, and you have to have a short memory, kind of like a corner. If you get beat on a long route, you're going to have to forget about it and cover that guy again. Same with kicking or punting. You miss a field goal, you have to go back in there and do it again. Short memory, and like I said before, go about your business and get it done.
Last thing I have for you here, Steve, and help us out here a little bit. We've got Bills long snapper Reed Ferguson on the show with us after practice today. What's the best? Steve and I were saying, what do we ask the long snapper? Help us out. What should we ask a professional NFL long snapper? It's a tough one.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of it. I mean, the long snapping thing in the NFL, the guys are so good, and it's and now I'm working with the high school kids. I see the difference. They can control the rotation of the football so that the holder actually catches the laces in a certain spot in his hand and is easily able to put the ball down most times. And I think that's what I would ask a long snapper in the NFL is how do you get that rotation every time? Because that's a huge part. Because as we know, the get off time is anywhere from, well, in our case, 1.19 seconds to 1.3, depending on what we're doing. But at the end of the day, it all starts with the snap. And like I said, these guys are so good that the rotation is right there. Holder grabs it, puts it down, and all that's left to do is make the field goal.
That's a great question.
It's true, man. It's hard to get if the holder has to spin the ball, it was a bad snap. I mean, that's the margin of error for the snappers, and most of them get it right every time.
And as you know, I mean, you've got guys up the middle that are 6'5", 6'7", athletic guys, and you really can't err on the side of being too slow. The trajectory is the first issue, and then, of course, accuracy and making the kick after that. But that's why, a lot of teams put in offense and defense, but Marv Levy was always huge on getting the third element in there, getting special teams done, because it affects your scoring and your field position. And if your special teams are tight and they're ready to go, it is a real advantage in some games.
It's a great
Thanks
question.
for coming on, Steve.
Yeah, great question for Reed Ferguson. We will ask that. Thank you, Steve. Steve Christie, Bills kicker, coming back this Sunday. He's the Bills' legend of the game. He'll be recognized pregame. He'll be on the legend stage signing autographs between gates 5 and 6 and back down on the field at halftime with the crucial catch survivors down on the field. We thank you for joining us, Steve Christie. Got more to come. Come on back. One Bills Live, presented by Kaleida Health, live from the Seneca studio. And this is Buffalo Bills Radio.